Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling. Welcome to another video covering another kaiju. In fact, this is the kaiju that got me into kaiju media as a whole, with of course Godzilla Minus One. Now I'm sure you can put together that this is a pretty traditional Godzilla, even if you haven't seen the movie. From his design and everything, he is very traditional Godzilla, but with a very modern twist. However, I am going to give a bit of backstory. This version of Godzilla, in 1946, was a dinosaur that lived on Oto Island in the South Pacific. And at the nuclear test Operation Crossroads, which, fun fact, was a real nuclear test, and the stock footage used in Minus One was actually footage from Operation Crossroads. And then, after that, the explosion, he survived and became irradiated and mutated into the Godzilla we see here, and then went on a rampage, sinking every vessel he came across, mainly Americans, and moved towards Japan on a sort of beeline for destruction. Now, in terms of his abilities, as a brief summary, he is a durable, lightweight kaiju with a couple powerful tricks up his sleeve. In terms of offensive abilities, his most powerful technique is his heat ray, which is normal for Godzilla's, but his is very special because it has a long charge-up sequence, but its power is immense. Probably one of the most powerful heat rays in all of Godzilla media, excluding comics. I haven't read those, I've mainly watched the movies. His heat ray charges up, fires, and makes an explosion and shockwave so powerful it leveled the entirety of Ginza, and in the novel they said it destroyed everything in a radius of about 6 kilometers, or at least heavily damaged it. The area was also completely irradiated afterwards. He, of course, can destroy buildings with ease. He simply walked through the Seiko clock building in Ginza. And when he was feeling extra destructive, he would turn and sweep his tail to level more buildings, more vehicles, and everything else. He is also extremely durable for a kaiju of his size. He's only 50.1 meters high, making him the second shortest Godzilla, second only to 1954. He's immune to pretty much all forms of attack. His skin is impervious to an entire battleship's cannonade of weapons, which, it wasn't a small battleship, it was it was one of Japan's biggest battleships, covered with, 20-inch guns and so on. And he took it like a champ. He did fall backwards after getting hit by it, but he didn't have any visible damage. But his one weakness is he's actually quite weak on the interior. They detonated a sea mine in his mouth, and it blew about half of his face off. But this is offset by the fact that he can seemingly regenerate almost any damage, assuming his head is still somewhat intact. He regenerated that sea mine explosion, leaving only a scar on his cheek from where the explosion was. And even though he seemed to be dead after the explosion, he got right back up after regenerating. Now onto his datasheet. This is going to be, of course, Godzilla Minus One, coming in at 2,500 points. He's a lightweight kaiju. He's movement 8, toughness 18, 2+ save, 110 wounds, 5+ leadership, and OC 25. Pretty standard. I'm going to cover the atomic heat ray in a second because that plays into his abilities. But in terms of melee, he has his claws in his feet, which gives him 15 attacks. They hit on 2s, strength 14, AP 4, damage 5. Good for destroying light vehicles and things like Space Marines and Terminators. And then you have the tail sweep, which has 5 attacks, but I gave it Torrent, because Torrent doesn't actually have to be on ranged weapons. There's nothing, it's just if a weapon has it, it automatically hits. Which, given the way his tail sweep works, it's dragging across the ground and sweeping clean through things, so I figure there's not really a way that can miss, assuming you're in range of it. And since this annihilated buildings, vehicles, and everything in between, I gave it strength 26, AP 4, and damage 12. So it's a very devastating melee attack. But, of course, only 5 attacks means it can't annihilate entire squads of infantry. He also has the same regeneration as Biollante, as the regeneration is actually quite similar, though I'd say Godzilla Minus One's is a little more powerful. But it's just the same thing. At the start of the command phase, 3d6, add it up, can't go over your maximum wounds. He, of course, has a 4+ invulnerable save, which is pretty standard for durable kaiju. And let's get to his ranged weapon, which is the atomic heat ray. This has a 200-inch range, 5d6 plus 5 attacks, ballistic skill 2+, strength 26, AP 5, damage 12. It has the atomic heat ray special rule, which we'll get into in a minute, blast and hazardous. Because when he did fire that, it actually did burn his mouth. Like it was smoldering after he fired it. And that special rule means after firing this weapon, you cannot fire it until the end of your next turn. So you can fire it on turn 1, can't fire it on turn 2, can fire it on turn 3, and so forth. Because it takes time to recharge. When you fire it, you select your main target, and then you measure out 6 inches from that target, and everything within 6 inches also gets hit by this. You roll the attack numbers once, so you just roll the 5d6 plus 5 once, then carry out the attacks on everyone in that area. And then in 12 inches of the main target, everyone must take a battle shock test. So it's really devastating. You fire this thing and you will annihilate a huge section of the map, as it should be. That's how his atomic ray worked. But of course, you can only fire it every other turn. And hazardous, you know, it's got some drawbacks, but it's powerful. It is an insanely powerful iteration of the atomic heat ray, and I wanted to portray that through this. And also give him Feel No Pain 5+, because of his instantaneous regeneration for the most part. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.